than just conversations that I would love to archive or something. When that first gentleman said something that was right here, right now. Ryan, as you're still able to hear us, but you're still working
I can
on,
hear you.
or
Can you hear me now?
hey, fantastic. I can
All
hear
right.
you.
We can hear
And
you.
yes, and you are hearing
Finally,
us.
I can. Am I clear? Because I'm trying a new headset
Yeah,
here. Does it sound clear and normal?
it
All right.
does. It's a very crisp sound. Ryan, I should start by being polite and saying, have you met Ben or Sue yet?
Not face to face, but through LinkedIn and email and all that wonderful world stuff. So, how is everybody doing
Right.
today?
Great.
Excellent.
It all counts because I'm like, oh, it's Sue, because I've crisscrossed with her, and it's like, and Ben, what a great guy. And there's Mike. Every time I say something nice, someone else shows up. We
That's excellent.
actually might have 6. So Mike, how are you doing on hearing us?
Oh, not bad. Just busy as usual. I got to learn to slow down.
Okay.
Did you want to teach us once you learn?
Pardon me?
Did you want to teach us once you learn?
Oh, sure. I might write a book on it.
That slows me down because I've never written books until I turned 62. I've never done any of this. Oh my goodness. I used to be a classroom educator. Wave, if you've been pretty much on social media, through your, these last, say, decade or two, you've been on social media the last decade. Yeah, my hand is not waving. Wave your hand if you came onto social media in the last 2 years for the first time.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So for in our household, my husband has done this for so long, and I would come home from caregiving shifts and say, boy, I sure have been thinking about this. Is so important. I should do a seminar sometime, like at a senior center, and just tell people what I've learned, that they will never have the same opportunity. They may not have the same opportunity to be with almost 100 different families and to see the same things over and over again, and to pre-plan for just generally aging. And he's going, no, it needs to go a lot farther than your voice in a small room. And you are all proof that he was successful. It took him such a long time just to get me going. And when I see someone new, I think, oh, I know them. Oh, wait a minute. I've never actually been screen to screen with them before, but I feel like I do because I've watched them in videos. I've chatted with them in columns. I feel like I've known them. And Sue and we just started yapping away because she's talking about the coast in Florida. I am today at the coast in Oregon. Just this week, we're at the coast. And here we are just talking, and she's telling me about Dave Barry and random neuron firings.
Random neural firings.
Random neural firings. And
Yep.
that's exactly why I have invited each of you to this table, and I invite people every Wednesday to this table to I don't know, get on board with me, or to tell me, oh, you're missing out on something, and I'm grabbing from my pen going, what else do I need to know? in just the whole realm of aging and everything that people call that. The gentleman in my very, very first time, hello, Victoria. She is so faithful. She is so faithful with showing up in the comments and in the chat column and talk about random. I just want to say she's going to be on in just a short while because I'm like, hey, do you want to actually get on the screen? Because I kind of know you already. But in my very first grouping like this, I invited a gentleman. We were both watching a live stream, perspectives on cancer, perspectives of cancer. I think it's on with Tim Son. And he mentioned treatments. And I said, hey, I'm going to start this thing. Would you like to come? And his thing was, I'm working on living. So I don't really think the word aging, I think living. And I've incorporated that more and more into my writing and my conversations of continuous living. And I finally landed on persons of longevity. Persons of longevity. I'm like, who's going to vote against longevity? It's like, really, you should just pretty much quit. You hit a ceiling or a certain number of gray hairs and you should just quit. And it's like, most people would vote for longevity or would consider themselves, I'm a proponent or a fan of longevity. So I tell you, my neurons are randomly firing. I'm looking at those waves out there that I'm going to go walk along the side of. And I am so glad. Mike, I want to ask you, have you already, hello, see, every time I say something nice, another person comes. Jesse, can you hear us?
I can. I don't know if you can hear me because
you're perfect.
Yeah.
You're perfect.
Okay, cool.
Oh,
hi, everybody. Sorry
so
about
great.
it. I couldn't get out of another meeting earlier.
Well, I already happen to know that Sue and Ben found, they knew that each other was going to show up on the screen. And they're like, oh, yeah, we're going to have to change that meeting that we're going to have. And I thought, I love it. I love when people meet each other, find common ground, and enrich each other. So the first one on the screen was Ben. Ben, would you tell Jesse, Mike, Ryan more about yourself? And maybe you even remember how in the world I stumbled upon you to even say, hey, come on over to the table.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say I'm very grateful to be here, and it's great to meet everybody on screen here, as well as anybody who be watching this in the future.
Right.
It's an honor to share company with people who are service-oriented, who care about other people, who create products and services to make our world a better place. I have a varied background. I've done all sorts of different things, from serving in the Army as a combat medic during global war on terror, getting lots of different training there. Serving as a hostage and crisis negotiator, resolving conflict in communities, and then I've been a nurse for a few decades here, serving in correctional, military, civilian clinics and hospitals. So I work as a consultant, as a coach for companies and organizations, especially in healthcare, where there's a severe amount of burnout and a severe amount of challenges these days in staff. And so I serve as a coach and a consultant. I do that. I also have a few podcasts. So at the Aging and Disability Resource Center in the state of Wisconsin, where I live, we have a dementia care specialist program throughout the state. Every county has a dementia care specialist. Myself and the amazing Bonnie Beam Stratz work in 4 counties in the Southwest, but we serve families and caregivers who are doing their best to help their people in their life who have a form of dementia. So we empower those caregivers. One of my podcasts is called the Resilient Caregiver Podcast. And then I do some resilience teaching and training from my other podcast called the Get Up Nation Show, where people get up from getting knocked down. I'll include some links there in the chat. But that's a little bit about me, and I look forward to hearing about everyone else here I'll put in the chat here. There's a discount code also for Dementia Map where I'm an affiliate.
Fantastic. Affiliate of Dementia Map. That may be where I first crossed. Your little bit is a big, wow, what a life experience. Oh my goodness. And may I recommend to you Christy Horner, Christy with a K and ends with an I, Christy Horner, because the burnout, I was listening to her earlier today, and the burnout part is something that she also addresses. Is that name familiar to you?
It isn't, but it will be soon. Thank you.
Yes, it will. Well, Sue,
Yes, ma'am.
it was so fun when you both came on the screen and you're like just talking to each other, and I went, yay, more people, more interactions, more collaborations. But Sue, can you help me make sure, did I even hear about you with my associations with All's authors?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I am
So
an
take
All's
it away on
author, and
Sue
I
Ryan.
do some support work with them as well, a little volunteer work. So yes, I
Awesome.
met you through that. Yep. And then we've our paths have interwoven through LinkedIn.
Absolutely. When I see that you're on the screen, I know there's something quality going on. You
you.
are an
I'm
author.
fine.
You're not just a volunteer with Alzheimer's authors, but you are an author yourself.
I am. A couple years ago, I wrote an international best-selling book on caregiving called Our Journey of Love, 5 Steps to Navigate Your Caregiving Journey. And so many of the questions I got in follow-up conversations and speeches and things with that were about other parts of the journey. So I created a program called The Caregiver's Journey that walks through the whole journey from before it begins, or right as it begins, all the way through moving forward after it's done. The content of that book is also interspersed throughout it. And so I'm passionate because I have been a family caregiver on multiple journeys for the past 40 years in parallel with my professional career. And when you've had that much experience, it's worth sharing to help others, because so many people leaned in to support me throughout the years as well. So I've created a program that I take into businesses called Leadership Cares to help businesses understand and navigate the terrain of family caregiving, as well as for family caregivers. And I'm getting ready to launch an online course about it within the month. So lots of things going on.
Once you've been through something, you're like, other people should get help. They should know I don't want anyone to journey alone. I know what it meant to have some other wise people, caring people,
Right.
different perspectives. Someone going, oh, when we got to that point, and you just feel like, oh, thank you for knowing. Thank you for
and the good part about it
understanding.
is there are people like those of us on the screen here who feel strongly about sharing. And then there are other people, and it's important to give them permission. There are people on the journey who want to get support, and they have no interest when this is done with being one of those people to share, and that's okay. It's not for everybody, and for some people, all the heads are nodding. You know, it can just, you just want to step away from it. So, you know, I honor anyone else who feels called to share, and I also honor anyone who says, not my path.
Excellent. Boy, that just goes along with some things I was listening to this morning, where someone said that wasn't the way. As much as I loved my parents, that wasn't the way that I was going to love them. So I found people who are gifted that way, and I used the conversation went to the love languages. I think it's 5 love languages.
Right.
And the conversation went over there, and it's like knowing yourself, knowing how you are perceived by others, and understanding them and taking in how they do things. And there's just a whole lot of appreciation. A gal that was a secretary when I was a classroom educator, she goes, I just don't have any talents. Not true. I just don't have any talents, except I'm really good at admiring other people and building them up. And I thought, she's got tons of talents, but
That's
that's
a
what she
talent too, though.
sees as her love language. Yeah,
Yeah.
admiring others. Ryan Hurd,
Yes, ma'am.
you have a new set of ears. You've got your headphones on, you got your system going, you've got your background going.
Yeah.
What do you, when someone goes, "Oh, well, what do you do, or what are you about, or what are you good at? You know, what's your talent? What's your love language? Whatever. What's kind of the way that you respond to somebody who, I'm going to say, might not have a perspective of everything that you're doing? Like
Yeah.
you turn it into a language, or you use words that make sense to just about anybody they can relate to.
My love language is technology. Anyway,
It's not mine.
it's a love-hate relationship, you know? But thank you for having me on, Christine, because you know
Sure.
we've been trying to do this for a while, and you know it's life. Life is crazy. It's the
Yes.
caregiving chaos, or the chaos of caregiving, and you know we all suffer from that. As you know, my name is Ryan Hurd. In my former life, I was known as Ryan Hurd, the smart guy. I've been in technology for 30 years. I wrote the book on smart home called Join the Smart Home Revolution. And, you know, we've done some amazing things. I've been on DIY and HGTV and A&E networks and all these really cool things. And life was going great. But then, as usual, you know, this is a story that you've heard time and time again. And we know from people that we talk to, something happens to an aging loved one. In my case, it was my father, and he got cancer. And my biggest problem is when he's going through his chemo treatments and he's coming home, you know, I wanted to know how he was doing. And with his form of cancer and the chemo treatments, the most important thing was that he takes this one medication at 1 o'clock because it's for his neuropathy, because he's having an issue feeling, you know, his feet and things like that. And it was very important that he takes it at 1 o'clock because it had to be on a 24-hour rotation. So, being Ryan Hurd, the smart guy, you know, hey, I'll use technology and, you know, I'll throw it in there. And of course, I started with a camera, which most people do, and that lasted 15, 20, you know, seconds. Then a dish towel went right over it. And I had to figure out a new way of doing it. And that's basically where Caregiver Smart Solutions came from. I developed a system to be a fly on the wall that gives us as caregivers the tools to monitor our loved one as they age in place. And one of the things that we've learned is by doing this, it gives you, the caregiver, you know, your life back. You know, it gives you more peace of mind. The things like, you know, we're all worried about our loved ones, and we want to make sure they're okay. So traditionally, you call mom or dad up and, hey, how are you doing? The problem is if they don't answer the phone, you know, the first thing we think about, because we're humans, is that they're lying on the floor.
Yeah.
But the reality is they could be sitting on the toilet. You know, they could not have their hearing aids in, or they could have their hearing aids in, but they didn't charge them up. So there's a lot of things. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to develop something to give you the ability to be a fly on the wall and enable your loved one to retain their independence and dignity for as long as possible. And after I did that, I started talking to some other people, and everybody's like, hey, I need that. I need that. And here we are. So that's my love language, technology. It's a love-hate relationship. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's where we are, right?
I really understand that. I don't want to take my, I guess it's on the other table. I don't want to take my phone into the bedroom or the bathroom, because what if somebody turns it on remotely
Right.
to watch? So I really understand the privacy part, and I really understand having sharing that privacy with some technology. Like, a loved one of mine has had a monitor attached, and it gave really important information. A procedure, other medications were not right
Yeah.
that had been talked about, and instead a little tiny low dosage of something else, because that monitor gave correct information. And so I really champion technology coming in and sharing privacy with anyone, any age, and taking them off of stuff they don't need, and not sending them into procedure that would not have helped. That
Well,
it wouldn't
my
have hurt, but it wouldn't have helped. And
my
so
favorite
yay for
use of
technology.
my favorite use of technology is the stuff that actually helps us as humans. I'm a technologist and I love all technology. I mean, that's what I do for a living, and it's exciting. But the most
Mhm.
exciting stuff is the things that can actually help us as a human. And you think about it. I'm going down to Design and Construction Week in Vegas this Friday, and I'll be speaking at
Well, fun.
KBiz. And we're talking about how technology can help you and your aging loved ones live in place longer. And I say things like, and I'll ask you guys, do you think there's any value in speaking to your toilet? Does anybody think there's value to that?
Sure.
Kind of funny, right? I mean, we're going to talk to our toilets. Well,
Well,
If
there
it
is,
talks
if you
back,
want to,
you
like,
might
you
have
know,
a
is, you know,
problem.
did you flush, if you know, did you finish flushing, you know, or if you'd walked away to make sure that, you know, it's not overflowing and you could shut it off, you know,
very utilitarian.
Alexa,
Sis. I love
flush
that.
my toilet.
yeah, or could you warm up
Yeah.
for me? I want to come in. It's a cold day. I want to come
Warm
in. Would you
it
warm
up.
up for me so I could, you know, warm up so it's not cold when I get in there?
Is someone
Sure.
That
taking
is
notes?
very
This is what
true.
Sue wants.
I feel like talking to the toilet makes a lot of sense when that's probably where a lot of people do majority of their really good thinking too.
Yes.
Well, yes, that's how we're going to fix cancer, right? It's going to be somebody sitting on the toilet. But I digress. You know, the interesting thing is, in my household, I have 3 young boys. So whatever popped in your head right now, that whole chaos, that's the Herd household. And yes, if we had a toilet that you could speak to as I'm walking past the bathroom, and well, it's nice to say, Alexa, flush the toilet. But when we talk about our aging loved ones, think of it like this. You know, if you have a 96-year-old grandmother who has a hard enough time sitting down in her favorite chair, she really doesn't sit down at this point. She falls into her chair, right? And it's hard to get up. If we could eliminate one thing where she has to bend over and push the handle down and just be able to say, Alexa, flush the toilet, that is life changing. And then you take that and you apply that to, let's say, the shower or taking a bath, the ability that you can allow mom to say, Alexa, set the shower to 85 degrees. So now she doesn't have to go in and try to turn the knobs, and she's bending over and maybe she's getting burnt or it's not quite right. So that's what I mean. On one hand, technology is fun and funny. But on the other hand, I'm excited when we can find technology that can actually help us as humans.
Yeah.
Not to mention all the emergent cardiac episodes that happen in bathrooms.
Yeah.
You know, a simple visit to the bathroom can be extremely stressful for someone who's trying to navigate those challenges and having mobility issues. So absolutely, I'm on board 100% with what you're creating there.
Yeah.
Wow, I am loving it. Oh, I mean, really, toilet talk. There's a person on LinkedIn that I will definitely invite to the table sometime. It's just like, I'm all about toilet talk. And as you were talking about the shower, I have been there placing my feet and making sure that this person who deserves, just like me, that person is me at some point, deserves the opportunity to reach in and turn on their own, and some of these showers, that was built for 4 people, and, freezing cold water and the shock, and then too hot, too cold, and I'm getting wet, and, everything else. And just, oh, to know this is not going to scald and not going to do the startle, which means slip and fall to me all over the place. So,
Yeah.
Mike, we're talking about being all wet, and I had to invite you to the table to aspects of aging, because here you were all wet in a photograph that you proudly, is it in this office that you're in right now?
Yes, I have it on the wall.
Yes.
You
Oh
want
my
me to show
goodness.
it?
Oh, sure.
I'll
This
see if
is
I can.
great.
Let me get it.
Okay. Fantastic.
It's my
So,
constant reminder.
yes. And it's miserable to me. I mean, I am headed to the hot tub after this. But
Can I see
no,
it?
not Mike. That is not Mike coming out of a hot tub at all. What in the world? Why is that an inspiration to you? I know, but go ahead.
Let me just put it up here. That happened because of my most recent book I wrote, Longevity Lifestyle by Design. And
Oh, I like it.
I was, writing about how it's important to get healthy again and maintain your health for as long as possible, things like that. And then I said, well, I got to walk the talk. At that point, because I was writing books and I was stuck at my desk and going through the pandemic, I had put on 53 pounds, so borderline obese, high blood pressure, everything. And I said, well, I got to walk the talk. So I got this brilliant idea that when do I train for an Ironman in 10 months?
Well, let's start out slow, Mike. Don't, just ease into it. And
I
Ironman's a
told you,
great
I
way to
need
ease
to
into
learn
it.
how to slow down. So I said to myself, hey, it's going to be hard. I'm going to hire a coach. And, the concept of paying someone to yell at you doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but I did it anyways. And it was 10 months of hell. But I went there. I went to Ironman Cozumel. I started, and it's one of my most cherished memories. The swim, as soon as I get the swim started, someone kicked me in my right goggle. So it shut my eye, but then I couldn't adjust them properly. So they kept leaking salt water, and they burned both eyes. I could hardly see anything. So I looked like Rocky when I got out of the water after his first fight with Apollo Creed. But one of the most amazing things
Adrian!
of the swim was I thought I was swimming through seaweed, but it was jellyfish. And then I got all these things all over my body.
That's what they put you guys in the Ironman?
Yeah, well, this is the fun part. And then I got through that, and I got on the bike, and I ended up riding 120K. But because they started the race late because there was bad weather in Cozumel that day, they had to reopen the roads again. The Mexican government had some issue with it. So they wouldn't allow some of us back at the Packers complete the race, even though we were within the time limit. So maybe that wasn't a bad thing because I knew it was going to hurt like hell.
Probably a safe thing too, because the way the other people were driving, you guys might have all gotten run off the road.
Yeah. So, you, in a way, I felt I would have got it done within the 17 hours. I was on my pace that my coach and I worked at, but I think 1,500 people registered for it, most of them young people, right? 500 dropped out. And I didn't. They pulled me out, but I was still going. I was like the little Energizer bunny, kept going and going. But it was, it was interesting. I think I'm going to go back and give it another shot in 2024 when I turn 70. I think it would be a nice goal to have. And this time I'll take more time to get in shape for it.
Do they separate them by age group at all, or is it just everybody? Like if you're 20 or if you're 70, you're in the same group?
Well, they have age brackets, but when you start with everyone.
Okay.
Mm.
And then, when you get to the bike rack, it can be a little bit discouraging because your bike is the only one there, right? So it can get a little lonely. But I fell in love with Cozumel, and the people were just wonderful. Wow. And, I met a lot of interesting people, and I learned a lot. And it just, it's another step in the right direction for me.
Well, that's good.
That's amazing. So your longevity lifestyle is to go somewhere wonderful and be absolutely miserable.
Well, it's an experience. It's a test. That's what I like. It's a test. Can I do it? Cozumel's become my Everest. It's a mountain that, I want to give it a shot and try to climb it. And if I fail, well, maybe I'll give it another shot and try again. I like challenges. Like writing a book for me, having never written before, was a huge challenge, probably just as tough as Ironman, to be honest, because I struggled for a long time. And look at the weight I put on, because when I get stressed out, I eat snacks, right? And you're sitting at your desk for 8 hours, and you get up at 4:30 because you're excited about a new idea, and it just kind of really messes up your lifestyle and your health if you let it. And unfortunately, I did. But why I wrote the books? Do I have a couple minutes? Is that okay?
Yeah, and I'm just saying, congratulations on knowing yourself. You need some tension, some push, something to. You need to get to the barrier and push on it. You don't want to just be floating around in the bouncy house.
No, if I stay
if
I stay in my comfort zone, I get bored really fast.
Now, did you go out the next day and run the marathon just so you could run it?
I've never run a marathon. I might do that one day, but that was just part of the
Isn't that part of the Ironman is running a marathon?
Yeah, right at the end, but I didn't get there.
Well, I know. I was just saying, but like the next day, just for fun to see Cozumel, did you go out and run a marathon?
Oh, no. I sat on the beach and had a couple of beers and watched the world go by.
Just checking.
I'm not that crazy. The reason I decided to write books and do all this stuff was because I worked in a bank for 38 years. And when I was packaged off, even though I didn't have any money concerns, I started to suffer from retirement shock, and I ended up suffering for close to a year from it. And I couldn't understand that because I really wanted to leave that bank at that point. I was looking for something else to do. I already told people I was leaving. So when they gave me my walking papers along with a severance check, I was really happy. Sure. But within a month, the shock started to set in, and I was fascinated by it because I couldn't understand why it was happening to me. I couldn't understand why it happened to my father. He suffered from it for about a year. I had a good friend die from it. He ended up drinking himself to death because of social isolation, amongst other things. I knew it was a problem, and I couldn't understand why it didn't bother my mother at all. She slid into retirement, and it was the greatest time for her. And I was puzzled. I spent a lot of time researching why. I finally figured it out. And that led to the 3 books. And really, it's just, they were self-therapeutic. They were my books of discovery about how retirement really works for people like me. And then the last book, once I figured all that out, I'm a big fan of working part-time in retirement, even if you don't need the money. I think it's good. It's a longevity booster. I love reading stories about people that are working, like people in their hundreds, they're still doing something part-time. I think it's the coolest thing. And the last book was, instead of talking about retirement planning, I'm going to focus on longevity planning because I retirement planning only deals with money. I want to go beyond that. I want to talk about lifestyle. Everyone's unique. Everyone needs a different lifestyle that's customized to their own needs and interests and values. And that's the kind of work I do now. So I'm excited about it. I'm hoping more people will learn about it. The last book, it took 2 years to write, and I had some 5 contributors help me out with it, different aspects. One section is, how to renovate your home so you can live there for the duration and things like that, and why women suffer from different retirement risks than men do, and all those issues. So it's kind of a eye opener, creates a lot of thinking with people. And I knew it was really important work because I didn't want them to suffer like I did. So I made the decision to give it away for free so people can go and download it at the website. And my goal is to have it downloaded 1 million times. And that's what I'm going to keep working towards. I've decided to do a lot of seminars and podcasts pro bono just to help people. I'm really focusing on the people that were impacted by the pandemic. So first responders, healthcare workers, teachers, airline pilots, goes on. And I'm just going to be sitting there and doing free seminars with the hope that they read the book first. So when we get into the Q&A, it's robust and we can address specific concerns. So I think everyone benefits, better that way. And that's what I'm going to do for at least the next 2 years, plus train for Iron.
Jesse, I didn't warn you that my that it's a complete bunch of baloney that this is a half-hour show. Am I keeping you from something that you need to get going to?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, I am so
I might be looking off the
glad.
camera a little bit, but I'm just typing in some like notes and like I'm like, okay.
No, I was just afraid that I would start to talk to you and you'd go, "Hey, sorry, I gotta jump," and I'd be going, oh, "I've been rude to him. He's been here with us, and I've been rude to him." That happened once, where a person had to jump, and they were at work, and they really needed to jump because their work was care place. And I'm just going, "I'm so sorry. I wish," it's like, "Oh, I'll just come on another one. Life happens." And she was so smooth about it, but I don't want that to happen again. So Jesse, I didn't even tell everybody else that you're coming. So you're a total surprise. Do you already know anyone else here or have interacted?
No, I don't think I know anybody from other than just seeing here and like doing quick LinkedIn searches like, oh, who are they? What do they do? No, so I'm not familiar with anybody right now, but I feel already like this is going to be some relationships that are developing from this. So Christine, thank you very much for putting out the invitation. I think what I really like about this is that it's not like a set webinar where like, hey, this is a subject we're going to specifically talk about. We're going to go down A, B, C, and as it goes, it's just more like this conversational style about, oh, we're learning about each other, but at the same time, like, oh, I didn't know that, or cool, like, you know what I mean? I think I really like your format and that it's less formal, but it's still informational and still beneficial to a lot of people within senior living for sure, which is what we do. So for me, our company, I'm with Heritage Med Call. We do emergency call systems. So very similar, I guess, avenue as like Ryan. So I it's so funny because a lot of the points he touched on is exactly what I also touch on in regard to like peace of mind for residents as well as families, because he spoke to it that gives you the peace of mind, freedom, dignity, independence to still maintain that while you're in the home. But at certain points too, if anyone has ever been a caregiver, at some point, sometimes it becomes too much. It really is. And caregivers, a lot of times that don't really, and I don't know if Sue, you experience this or with any people that you work with, but oftentimes the caregivers you need to recharge, but that's not something you really hear about. Only lately we talked about like mental health, but that's something that really needs to happen because the caregivers in communities and for anyone who's had to do it for a family member, it takes several different tolls on you, like emotional, physical, the worry, the concern. So Ryan, I love what you have and what you offer for keeping family members in homes. So what we do, we provide emergency call systems, but on a community level, we don't have anything for an individual home to keep there. So once they move from the home into the community, now we basically make sure that the residents can connect to a caregiver if they need to or if they want to, but still give them their sense of independence, but still give the peace of mind to the family members as well, who have been caring maybe for the past 5-10 years for their resident. Like, hey, is mom going to get the same level of care that I gave her? And that's usually one of the biggest concerns for individuals and having to make this decision is moving them to a home or not, or a community. And then again, the socialization aspect, it can be a very big factor, as Mike was speaking to, So I really feel like it's an important thing to discuss, even though a lot of people, we don't really talk about it. It's almost so obvious that no one talks about it that like, oh, well, we just know about it, right? But no one, it's almost like comedians. When a comedian says something, you're like, well, yeah, of course. But how's no one ever, it's presented in such a way, you're like, how have we never talked about that before? Everyone deals with it, or no one really talks about it. And it's hysterical when someone finally does talk about it out loud. You're like, oh yeah, I guess so. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I do that too. So I love it. I love this information. I've already followed, I think, almost everyone already. I'm already looking at Ryan's website. I'm gonna get Mike's books. I love this. I love your format. I love meeting new people, and I love helping our residents for sure.
Part of what I love about these kinds of conversations is that each of us, based on our backgrounds and our life experiences, have a different area where we're providing a way to serve the community. And so it's such a broad and power. I mean, it's a huge community. There's so many aspects of it. There are different diagnoses, there are different family relationships, there are different kinds of health journeys, that there are so many opportunities for us to be able to provide value in different ways. And I love these kinds of conversations to learn about, because something calls each one of us to do what we've done. It's a father, it's family members, it's people you've seen in care communities, it's seeing a need because somebody else had it. And so this is great. I'm learning a lot and I appreciate it, y'all. This is wonderful.
I know.
I'm taking notes. If I look like if my eyes are looking down, it's because I'm taking notes.
No, I'm so grateful you're all hanging out here in this moment, saying everything that you're saying, everything that even inspires me as a person. So next month I'm 63, and that doesn't seem weird to me to say that out loud, but for so long culture was like, whatever you do, don't actually look or seem that number. And now I'm thinking, well, what if seeming or looking that number means that you are doing an Ironman competition? Maybe that's what 70 looks and seems like. What if it means that you're creating a new website and program and writing a book and deciding to run for a government position so that you can make a bigger difference? I mean, what if that's Jesse? My again, what was it? Random
neural firing. Yeah.
Random neural firing. Okay. So as you were talking, I can see the home, I can see the sofa, and I can see another home and another sofa. It happens so many different ways where I'm there I am well trained. I am actually bonded with my person that I've been assigned to give assistance to. And there's the family member on that sofa feeling like, well, I'll just be gone for a few minutes. And it's like, you can be gone as long as you need to, coming back with apologies. I saw someone that I haven't seen for a long time, and we got to talking. I can't believe I was gone so long. And I'm just thinking they're so accustomed to being right there to make sure everything's okay and done right. And even though, yes, they trust me, and they know that I've got their phone and I would call them if I would do that. Um, it is so hard to let that go. It isn't the same as a parent with a baby, but I think that the feeling can be related to that. The first time that you leave a baby with a babysitter, you feel like you are somehow, I mean, they're apologizing, because there's just a constant, and that's part of the caregiver burnout, is you're always thinking, have I made, did I take care of, oh, I feel like I need to, wow, there's an alarm that goes off inside, and I shouldn't push this on someone else because this is such a burden. And all of that. And it's like, wow, how many layers of guilt can a person carry?
If
Um,
if I could comment
if
on
they
that,
can learn
Christine.
how not to. Yes, please, please.
That's something that we frequently see here, especially in the clients and the families that we serve. Is there's a stigma associated with not being completely self-reliant, especially a lot of men have grown up in a culture or received the message that says you can't ask for help, you can't be vulnerable, if you do, you're weak, if you do, there's a moral failure of some kind, that you should be ashamed of. And the fact is, and I love that you're pointing that out to people, and I love that you're creating media that um, is sensitive and gives a platform to the entire human experience versus just a window of 20 to 25 where everyone is trying to go for the perfect body, the perfect amount of wealth, this idea of perfection versus the real ultimate richness of living, which is every age, from being born to longevity, to the like was commented on before with Mike running a Ironman as an older adult. These are valuable experiences that we can all learn from, and so when we stop acting like we have to be perfectly wealthy, perfectly healthy, and the portrait of what we're supposed to be at age 25 with six-pack abs. The fact is that we're all human beings, and to have media that highlights our real struggles and our real realities, especially for caregivers who are doing everything that they can and oftentimes not getting much from our healthcare systems. These are powerful interactions that I'm glad we're sharing. Like Jesse mentioned, we don't talk about these things a lot, and I just want to, if there's a older male out there who is drinking or trying to deal with not having it all together, I just want to say to you that in combat, if you're being overrun, you ask for reinforcements. If you're a law enforcement officer and you're on the streets and dealing with something vicious and violent, or a situation that is, a mass casualty situation or an active shooter, you call for backup. And so for caregivers, there is nothing wrong with you practicing self-care. There's nothing wrong with you reaching out to these organizations, using an app, using a book, learning from these things and saying, you know what, I don't have it all together. That's the beginning of some wonderful, wonderful things. And so I just wanted to put that message out there, and thank you, Christine, for creating the space where those messages can be articulated and heard.
May I add something onto that? That's so powerful. Christine, can I just add a little something onto that?
Please.
You said something in there that is, I believe, so powerful for all of us who are in the space of supporting people who are either supporting caregivers or who are caregivers, and that's permission. It's giving yourself permission not to have the answers, not to be the one that's supposed to. I talk a lot about keeping promises you're not meant to keep. You know, when you're in your 20s, you say, we're going to take care of each other. We're going to stay at home. We're going to do this. You can't imagine what it's like to change the diapers of somebody who doesn't recognize you and is fighting you, and you're now 80 years old. And having permission not to be the person who has to do everything in the caregiving role. And the other side of that, though, is that I know my grandparents were taught to be old at the age of 65.
Right.
They had to retire, and then you sit, and I watched them, and I remembered as a child, I was in my teens, and I was like, what happened to my grandparents who loved going around? They started sitting down more and doing less and feeling old and retired. And, you know, to your point, Ben, and what you've done, Mike, we don't have that anymore. And they had a gentleman, and there's something on YouTube about it, and he was a physical therapist. And he went out to people who were in continuing care communities who were incontinent, some of whom were bedridden. And he used 1 pound weights. He got them continent, and he got them up again. Because there was a mindset of it, there was the motion, there were those things. And so I think a big part of what we're doing, and then the technology, Ryan, that supports people feeling independent, and then being able to have the communications, all of these things come together to help us. We're meant to thrive in our lives at every age, whatever that looks like. And Ben, to your point, I mean, I don't look like what I looked like when I was 20, but I didn't really necessarily know I liked what I looked like when I was 20. We've had stigmas about how we looked and what we should look like since we were little kids. So it's kind of letting go of all of that so that we can learn to just be like, okay, what's the best version of myself where I am today?
That's right.
I want to jump in on that too.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jess.
I was just going to say to kind of, we're like a commercial right now. I was going to say to kind of jump in on that as well. Like I was in another conversation recently, and it was speaking directly to wellness and engagement aspects that's often needed in communities, and it's a huge part of any senior living conference that I've attended for the past number of years, and probably has been and probably will forever be, because the wellness and engagement portion is it's intrinsic to, I guess, quality of life. And that's pretty much what we're saying here with Ben and Sue. Like, and Mike touched on it too, like the longevity. There's much more to longevity other than just the money, which sadly nowadays, it's like a maybe a blessing and a curse. People are living longer than they were. That's phenomenal. Also, too, the cost of living is astronomical now than it was, and things haven't kept up with inflation. So now the cost just to survive to the end now for many people has become a very big concern and a worry. But there's more to it than just that. It's also, again, like you said, if someone came in and they treated somebody, they helped, they give a little bit of exercise, it can make a tremendous impact on someone's life, and also on their dignity. And the dignity, there's so many things that can help with dignity. And it's such simple acts that we can offer help with, words of kindness, to help kind of help them tell their story, so to speak, with their wellness and engagement. Either they can sit there and be in their bedridden all the time, or if they feel like they want to be more active, then maybe try and help them. And I feel like there's so many simple acts to help with the dignity, but it's also helps with the sense of community for elders, that it's something that can be instilled in everyone on every level. And I feel like it hasn't been for a long time, but it's starting to get that way again. And I feel like a lot of the forward-thinking countries, so to speak, for many, many years, we didn't value and honor our elders as we should and have in the past in history. And I think we're starting to see the real intrinsic value in doing that for elders again. And, you know, hopefully it continues that way, and we see the value instead of being like, oh, you're old, you don't know, you don't know that, so sorry, Ryan.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in, say 3 quick things. Number one, Gary Barge was interviewing me for today's Caregiver, and he asked me a question, and he said, do you have any resolutions for caregiving for 2023? And I thought about it for a second. I said, you know what? It's about our health and wellness as a caregiver, because if, as I said before, the chaos of caregiving, it's stressful coming out of COVID. I mean, it's hard. And if we don't take care of ourselves, sometimes you have to slow down to speed up. That's what I learned from Iron Man. And you need to take care of yourself, because if we're healthy and well and right in the head, then we can give the best care for our aging loved ones. So that's one point I wanted to make. Another point, you guys talked about politics. I am a elected official. And one of the things that irks me is caregiving per se is very fragmented. And what I mean by that is when somebody calls me as mayor of my town and they say that, mom is having an issue, is there anything that we have that can help her? From a town aspect, there's very limited things we can do. We have a senior center. We can do some senior days. We have some age restricted housing that we've done in town to help the seniors. But then it goes up to, in New Jersey, that's where I'm from, the county. And then the county level has certain assets. And then from there, it goes to the state. The state has certain assets, and the federal government. The biggest problem is, in parallel with these assets, there's also the nonprofit community. So whether it's Habitat for Humanity that has something about aging in place that helps mom, fix her roof up because it's leaking, or some other nonprofits. The biggest issue we have in our industry is it's super fragmented. And as a caregiver, the reality is you're thrown into it. It always starts the same way. An event happens. Mom fell, grandma broke her hip, whatever that event is. And now the clock is ticking. And all of a sudden, you're a caregiver. And nobody calls themselves a caregiver, but you're thrust into that situation. So I think as a community, and this is where it starts, talking about it and gathering these things and putting them together, so the next person that has to deal with this has a little bit of an easier time. And then the third thing I want to finish with is, Mike, don't say you're going to. Like, this is in your future, buddy.
One day.
You can't say it, but it's in your future. So don't say, just do, right? You can do it.
No, I agree. And it's, to me, even though people are retired, it's still important to have goals. You got to have goals. That's what makes life exciting.
I call it re-thriving, not retiring. It's like, why would you retire? Re-thrive.
I don't believe in retirement at all. I think it's just it's a bad concept they got to do away with. But getting back to what Ben said about guys having a harder time, it's true. I wrote a chapter on it about cowboy values, how I was raised with John Wayne and Clint Eastwood. You're not supposed to complain. You're supposed to work it through by yourself. And you can't show you're vulnerable to anyone. You can't tell anyone you're scared or you don't know what to do and you need some support. And by talking about that, hopefully we can change that, because that causes a lot of stress that they hold inside. And over time, it will destroy you. When I talk about longevity, my focus is on healthy longevity. I don't want to live to 100 and I spend the last 10 years in bed or on a couch or something that I can't get up. So what I'm looking for is ways to push back my best before date, so I can keep doing those things that I love to do for as long as I can, like Iron Man. And that's where the focus is. So it's healthy longevity. Yes, longevity risk is real. So that's why I try to encourage people that work towards building a sustainable lifestyle. And if you need to work part-time, great, but try to find work or create work that you love to do for as long as you can. And it works. And that's where people find purpose. And we read all these wonderful stories about people late in life starting a new business, and they're excited about it. They can't wait to get out of bed in the morning and get at it again. And that helps them to live longer, and they're more active. They're using their minds. They're using their creativity. They're meeting their socialization needs because they're dealing with other people. And that's where we need to explore more and talk about more about what's possible, what other role models are doing, how they're winning at this game called life, and just forget about this retirement thing. It's just
I love that. And if I can,
I have to interrupt because we're going to throw a banner across. And I know there's a 10 o'clock appointment that my hubby, producer slash everything, is about to go to. We could go for another hour. I want to. Any person who, go ahead and throw the banner. Any person who's thinking, do you want a trained caregiver or an untrained caregiver